Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. Here with Johnny. How's the past week been for you, Johnny?
Hey, hanging on in there. All-Star break is finally upon us, or we'll be here in the next day or two, so that's exciting. Get to kind of rewind, let all the players give themselves a nice old rest before they get back to the second half of the season, because it's certainly been a grueling season thus far. But I'm doing pretty well over here. How are you, Garrett?
I'm pretty good. As you said, we're hitting the halfway point of the season, so things are going to start moving a little bit quicker. We're going to start to see who's the real teams, who's the fake teams, and so on. But we got a lot of topics to discuss. We're going to hop right into them. The first one being, last week we talked about, and even the headline I think of our title of our show was like, "Are the Lakers in trouble?" But now we also have some more trouble. It seems like in LA. This time with the Clippers and the way that they've been playing in the fourth quarter, especially. They've lost consecutive games. Of course, Kawhi didn't play in one of them. But are you concerned with how the Clippers have been, a bit abysmal down the stretch of games?
Yeah, it's certainly not a good look, and Ty Lue's mentioned it multiple times in his pressers now post-game, saying, listen, I got to find ways to put Kawhi and PG in better spots late in games. The last game that Kawhi actually missed was against Boston, and they lost that one. The last 5 shots were Paul George three-pointers in the last 2 minutes. It's not that you don't want your best player taking those shots, but you want to find quality shots, and quality shots aren't always just shots taken by your best player. So there's that. The part that doesn't make me super nervous about it is that there haven't been a ton of games that these two have played together that have come down to clutch minutes. So last 5 minutes, I think the game's got to be within 5 points to be considered clutch time. And they just haven't played in many of those games. So there's at least a sign of hope or something like that, right? Like where we're not worrying too much about it because they just don't find themselves in those situations. But I would like them to find better shots down the stretch. I saw a stat that they're like 29th or something like that in these clutch field goal percentages, and it's just not a good look offensively.
Well, the other thing is, like, I know you said they haven't played many of these situations together with their 2 stars, but they just haven't played, period. Like last year, what they played, like 13 or 14 games in the regular season together, and then this year they played a total of about 35 games, but of course they both missed about probably, 8 to 10 games each. So, like, in 2 seasons worth, a season and a half technically, they haven't even played half of what would be a normal NBA season. And I think the biggest thing that you could look at, we've said on here before, how, there's a good chance that if the Clippers got past the Nuggets last year, that they could have beat the Lakers and maybe they would have won the title. But, part of that is they lost game 5, 6, and 7, and a lot of that was not showing up in the fourth quarter. So this is still like a huge thing to look at. Pandemic P was trending again on Twitter. So and you don't want to see like them get into another meltdown this season like they were last year, or else things are gonna turn like really toxic, even probably more so than last season.
Yeah, it won't become a non-discussion until they're able to get over the hump, right? Like that's how things work. When one thing goes bad, until they're able to turn that around and erase it, it's going to continue to be talked about. So until they're able to turn this around, and B, especially in the playoffs, this will be a conversation that we'll continue to have.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, they're technically above like the Lakers right now in the standings, which is like good for them. But there's other teams out here like Philly, Utah, Phoenix, like they're just as hungry, and a lot of their team, they have probably just as many veterans, if not more, than the Clippers. So they gotta pick it up, especially late in the games, if they want to have a chance to compete when it comes to playoff time. Because the West is tough.
It's something that we'll monitor as we continue.
Yeah, but moving on, we're gonna talk about the Milwaukee Bucks and specifically Giannis, who's been playing out of his mind lately. The Bucks right now, they're like the 3rd seed. He basically brought them up from, it seemed like they were having a really bad year. Of course, like Holiday missed some games. But do you think Giannis deserves to be back in the MVP discussion again for potentially three-peating?
You can put him in the discussion, but like there's at least 4 clear players ahead of him. It's Jokic, it's Embiid, it's LeBron, and it's James Harden for me. Those four are clearly ahead of Giannis. But if you want to make the case for Giannis being fifth or being in that 5 to 8 range, go for it. But I don't think he's sniffing that top range. Three of those top four that I mentioned, Embiid, LeBron, and James Harden, they own some of the best records in the NBA, so they have that case going for them as well, while also putting up good numbers. So you might be able to include Giannis in the top 5, but anything past that is something I don't see.
I'm a little bit indifferent here, but I don't know, because in my opinion, Embiid is the favorite right now. Of course, LeBron is up there too. But other than that, I think you could put Giannis probably up there, I think, with Harden, with Jokic, Curry, Damian Lillard, and all these other guys. Like someone, I think it was on Undisputed today, and I mean, I know they talk a lot of stuff just to be controversial, but Shannon Sharp, he brought up a good point about for James Harden's case. Does what he did in Houston also follow with him? Where they started off the year abysmal, forced his way out. Of course, he's playing with Durant and Kyrie. Yes, they've missed some games, but that's still an elite trio offensively. And then as for like Jokic, who you mentioned, they're currently like the 7th seed. So it's hard unless you're doing something revolutionary, like we saw with Westbrook the first time he averaged a triple-double. I think he could be as high as 3rd. Now, would I put him 3rd? Probably not, but I think that he could be potentially 3rd, depending on how you look at it. But he also could be probably as low as like 6 or 7.
Yeah, I don't see his name being thrown around the top of it. So when you break down the MVP discussion, you could make it tiers, and whether your top tier is just Jokic and Embiid, or whether you want to throw LeBron and Harden into that as well, go for it. But there's tiers to this kind of discussion, and to me, Giannis just isn't in that top tier, no matter how I arrange that top tier.
Well, the thing is also, like, new faces, different places. Like, people always like to see new things happen, and the Bucks, they've been the same team for several years. Giannis has won back-to-back MVPs, so him winning the 3rd one, I mean, he was going to have to do something on the next level to win it again this year. Lately, though, he is playing some of his best basketball, so I think he definitely has to be somewhere in the combo. I mean, I wouldn't put him as my favorite, wouldn't even put him as a runner-up, but he's got to be, like, somewhere in the next one. I think at least, like, around the top 5. I think everyone can agree he's probably, like, top 8, though.
Yeah, like I said, for me, he's between that 5 to 8 range.
Yeah, but moving on, we're going to talk about the Phoenix Suns, who we did talk about a few weeks ago, but lately it seems like they're on a completely new level. They've actually surpassed both the Los Angeles Lakers and the Clippers in the standings, and currently hold the 2nd best record in not just the West, but also the NBA. How big is this for, one, Phoenix, who's been out of the playoff picture for several years now, and then, just the way that, like, Booker and Chris Paul are bonding, like, with the team chemistry, helping guys like Ayton, Mikal Bridges. What do you think of the Phoenix Suns right now?
I'll say 2 things on it. The first thing is just the Chris Paul effect. Wherever Chris Paul goes, that team just inherently gets better, and this team has gotten much better. So, there's that. The second thing I want to say is, obviously, anytime you can get the 2 seed, it's a great thing. But if I'm Phoenix, is there an incentive to maybe get the 4th seed so that a possible second round matchup is Utah instead of one of the LA teams? Certainly, I think there's an advantage to doing so, but at this point in the season, play it out, let the cards shuffle themselves out, and wherever you land is where you land. So don't intentionally lose games to try to get that 4th seed. But that's just something that I think about, right? A lot of Utah being happy about possibly getting that number 1 seed is then if both LA teams get the 2 and 3 seed, that they avoid a possible second round matchup with one of those LA teams. So there's like games to be played within the whole seeding, but I wouldn't look that far right now. That was just something I wanted to note. The Suns have looked great. You got one of the best point guards ever in Chris Paul. Devin Booker is a scorer, taking the ease off of him. DeAndre Ayton's a great post threat and rim runner. You got Mikal Bridges, one of the best young and budding 3-and-Ds. Cam Johnson's a great 3-point shooter. Saric is providing good value off the bench. And everybody's buying into Monty Williams. And lo and behold, here we are, the Suns as a second seed, and I certainly think they're real.
Yeah, like you said about with Chris Paul, he's one of the more important players on any team that he goes to. And you could even argue, MVP has its own definition per se. Like with last year, usually goes to the best player on the best team, or someone just puts up the best stats. That's pretty much what it's become. But if you want like true value, there's almost like an argument to be made that last year Chris Paul with the Thunder could have been like the real MVP of the league. And like what he's doing now with the Suns, bringing them from a team that didn't even make the play-in, they missed it from the very last game, to now being the second best record in all of the NBA. And that's pretty insane. Of course, you mentioned Devin Booker, who's playing again like an all-star. I know he got in as an injury replacement, but I would have voted him for an all-star anyways. Mikal Bridges, he's playing like he's going to make an all-defensive team at this rate. I would say probably first team all-defensive, along with DeAndre Ayton, who you mentioned, Saric, and also like Cameron Payne has been playing really well. I don't think I've seen him play this well. We definitely didn't see him play this well when he was with the Bulls.
Bulls legend.
Yeah, I don't know where it was, but the point is, like, all these guys, it seems like they're starting to like gel together. Jay Crowder too. They just have like a perfect combo of young guys, of veterans, and I think that they're going to be good for quite some time. Even like, Chris Paul is 36, but even when he eventually, hangs it up and retires, or if he leaves again, like, I think they're still going to be good because now they're going to have this experience, around them, guys like Booker and Ayton, and, it's going to help them progress.
Yeah, listen, it's Chris Paul. We can attribute it to a lot of things, but I don't think we can attribute it to anything more than Chris Paul. It's literally the Chris Paul effect. Every team he's been on has gotten better when he arrived there. The Clippers, much better when he got to the Clippers. Then where was next? Houston got better. They almost forced Golden State out. If Chris Paul didn't get injured, we probably think that the Rockets win that series and go to the finals. He goes to the Thunder, takes that team to the playoffs. Comes to the Suns, they're now the second seed in the Western Conference. It's just what he does. And we're seeing another example of it. The fourth time now we've seen it happen. And at this point in his career, I'm not going to bet against him. I don't have them as the favorites in the West or the NBA as a whole, but they're on the map, and that's something that Phoenix fans should be happy for.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see like when it gets closer to that. I don't have him as the favorite right now, but very well could make a strong case by the end of the season. And, I think it's good for Suns fans because it's almost like Steve Nash 2.0 having Chris Paul there, because his impact is so huge with all these other guys. It's almost like the same style of play that was happening with like Mike D'Antoni, except, even better defense. Of course, their offense isn't like up to that par yet either. But the point is, like, it's just one main ball handler, facilitator that's getting everybody involved, and his impact is like huge. So I think that's what makes it even better for Suns fans.
Yeah, there is just so much to be happy for as a Suns fan after being irrelevant for a long period of time, that no matter what happens, just enjoy this season.
Yeah, very true. But one of the Suns' rivals around the Steve Nash era was the San Antonio Spurs, who are still in the mix of the playoffs. I was like holding off thinking about like talking about this because like, maybe they're getting off to an early start. I think they did last year too, but they seem legit, and they seem like they have a pretty good future around them as well. And this is also with, LaMarcus Aldridge, hasn't played that well this year. Kind of been moved to the bench some by Popovich, and DeMar DeRozan, he's played pretty solid, but I mean, he's also missed some games. Well, what do you make of the Spurs and how good they've been this year?
Yeah, I've been a big proponent of their young core. The big thing I think is that we always talk about all these young cores and all these duos, but nobody ever brings up the Spurs. And let me just list out, I think it's 6 names here. 6 names of super quality players that this core just looks super bright. DeJounte Murray, one of the better young point guards the league has. Derek White, a very underrated defender. Lonnie Walker can score at ease. Keldon Johnson, perfect wing defender, can shoot the ball, good rebounder. Jakob Poeltl, a good center on a great contract, 3 years, $27 million. That's exactly what you need. Luka Šimanić has started to come in now and play some better minutes. That's just their young core. Now you throw in veterans. You got Patty Mills. You have DeMar DeRozan. You have LaMarcus Aldridge. You have Rudy Gay. It's going to be interesting to see how they navigate the trade deadline, that is. But they have a core to build around, and that's what's important. I think if they find the right suitor for DeMar DeRozan or they find the right suitor for LaMarcus Aldridge, they'll ship him out of town and get some more assets. They could use some more bigs, some younger ones, but the future of this team just looks super bright, and Pop is doing a great coaching job thus far.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen star level potential from a lot of those players you just named, like from Derek White when they played the Nuggets in the playoffs a few years ago. DeJounte Murray, he's been like one of their top guys ever since they had like Kawhi on the team. These guys, they've been there now for a few years. Of course, Keldon Johnson really hasn't, but he's playing extremely great basketball right now. He got picked to the Rising Stars team, and that's tough because, as Bulls fans, we didn't see Pat Williams or Kobe White get selected. That just shows like in where he's at right now. He's playing that well for the Spurs, who are in the middle of the playoff picture, dealing with all this stuff. Like they could be trading DeRozan, could be trading LaMarcus Aldridge, but of course we know what Popovich does with talent. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be the 57th pick in the draft, which turns out to be Manu Ginobili, who's a Hall of Famer. Could be like the 27th pick in the draft, which became Tony Parker, going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, there's not many coaches that can do that. So I got to give credit to him and also the players for buying into it.
Yeah, I mean, the San Antonio Spurs have proven over the last 20 years to not bet against them. Whether that's development, whether that's them finding diamonds in the rough, anything around that coaching, just don't bet against them. And we're seeing it here. They had a couple down years, and now the core's starting to get built together, and we're looking at what they can do, and the future is looking bright out in San Antonio.
I couldn't agree more. We're going to move on to the Houston Rockets, who apparently have been hitting rock bottom. That's what their coach said, Coach Stephen Silas, and then also like John Wall, he's been saying like this is embarrassing, I believe. I know Christian Wood has missed some games. I know that Victor Oladipo's missed some games and really doesn't want to be there. But what do you think like of the Rockets right now? Because they just look bad.
Yeah, kind of goes back to the trade. Getting Harden out was the right thing to do if he didn't want to be there. But why they flipped LeVert to get Victor Oladipo, I still don't understand. Oladipo didn't fit into the long-term plans. Boogie Cousins wanted out. He's there. He's no longer there. Christian Wood is injured. John Wall's looked good, but nobody else on the team has. Jae'Sean Tate, I guess, as a rookie, is a bit of a bright spot there. Oladipo doesn't appear that he's going to be back after the season. Eric Gordon is garnering interest outside in the NBA. PJ Tucker doesn't want to be there anymore. Just a dumpster fire right now. They kind of just need to restart. Christian Wood's a good piece to build around. Don't know what they do with John Wall, but other than that, you just got to hope that they hit on some of these draft picks that they got for James Harden.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep it short, but they need to, move on. They've had rumors of trading PJ Tucker ever since Harden got traded. They still haven't moved him. Will they move him? Will they move Eric Gordon? These are things that they need to do. They can't. I know they've reached out, apparently, to Victor Oladipo. This is what he said, I believe this past week. But, they reached out to him a few weeks ago, and they're like, we expect you to leave, but we want to keep you here. We want you around. I don't know why they'd want him around. You traded James Harden for just him and some picks. So, you're not winning a championship. I mean, you could make the playoffs if everyone was healthy and stuff, but, I mean, it doesn't seem – it seems like you're tired of that, They have the longest active playoff streak, and they keep losing. They have no championships to show for it. But they already have, John Wall, and I think they're kind of just going to, ride him out, maybe trade him when he gets, on the, the very end possible time of his deal. They just look bad. Right now, they're pretty bad.
Yeah, they need to just restart. At a certain point, being mediocre doesn't do anything, especially after they've been this close to getting to the top. There's no need to settle for average, and they're not average right now. They're bad, but just gut it out and restart outside of Christian Wood and Jae'Sean Tate.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Before we get into like our all-star picks, one more important note for this week: the Atlanta Hawks. They fired Lloyd Pierce, who even Greg Popovich said that they're going to regret that. But they did hire Nate McMillan, who I know you were kind of surprised when the Pacers ended up firing him last year. What do you think of, replacing Pierce with Nate McMillan?
I think the replacement is good, but I don't think the firing was warranted in the first place. Young coach, not a lot of time with this team to gel. Injuries all over the place. They haven't played together much this year, so didn't seem like there was great reason to fire the coach. Let him figure some things out. He's young. Players seem to like him outside of Cam Reddish. So I don't know. Wasn't a big fan of it, but we'll see if the players respond to Nate McMillan better.
Yeah, I don't get the firing either because I mean they're already a better team right now in terms of just record wise at this point of the season where they were last year. Last year they were what, dead last. Right now they're at least 11th, very close to the play-in. They very well could win one, two more games more than some of these teams above them and get in the play-in, maybe get in the playoffs. Uh, and I mean that's kind of the first step in like a rebuild. But guys like Gallinari, Rondo, Clint Capella, Bogdanovich, Cam Reddish, Chris Dunn hasn't even, I don't think, played. Like all these guys are pretty huge acquisitions within the last year or so, and they haven't been playing for a decent amount of the games. How can you blame the coach when nobody's there? You know, like
Yeah, I mean, they hit a speed bump. You hit speed bumps in the season. They weren't playing well, but you got to figure things out. I don't think firing a young coach early in his career is the answer, but that's just me.
yeah, and I mean to go to the point with Nate McMillan, I mean he is a very solid coach. I don't know if he's like a top tier coach. Like he's not like the Greg Popovich or Eric Spoelstra or something like that. But I think he's a pretty decent pickup. I just don't. It didn't really make sense that they let go of Lloyd Pierce, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have reiterated multiple times now, just didn't seem warranted. The Hawks may regret it in the future. Who knows? Nate McMillan might come out and win Coach of the Year out of nowhere. Crazier things have happened, but you and I tend to agree that the firing didn't seem warranted, and we weren't on boat with the Hawks firing Lloyd Pierce at this point in the season.
Well, I know Quinn Snyder's making a good case for that right now, but I'm going Team Thibodeau for the Knicks. I don't know if that'll happen, but it would be cool for us Bulls fans. But
I'll give you Thibodeau Coach of the Year. Just give me Julius Randle MVP.
yeah, we'll get them all. D Rose,
Yeah.
Six Man of the Year, like just get everything.
Quickly Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, exactly. Nerlens Noel, defensive player. Like, okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about our daily picks, which it's All Star Weekend, so we got All Star picks this time. We're gonna start off with the major events happening, like on Sunday, the Skills Challenge. Who do you think's gonna win this?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a guard. I'm not going to go with one of the three big men. I'm going to go with the guard on the second best team in the Western Conference. Give me Chris Paul. I think he's going to take it home.
A lot of big men have won it ever since they've incorporated them in the past few years. So I'm going to go with another big, and coincidentally, we were just talking about the Knicks. I'm taking Julius Randle to win this.
Yeah, I think if you go with a big, Julius Randle's the right pick.
Yeah. But now the 3-point contest. I feel like there might be a huge advantage here, in my opinion, for Steph Curry. But do you think he wins it, or do you think someone else will?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the best 3-point shooter of all time in Steph Curry. But I don't think that it's like I wouldn't take Curry over the field. But if I had to choose one, I'm going to go with Steph.
And that would make the most sense. But I got to make things difficult over here. I'm going to go with a shocker pick. I think Donovan Mitchell's going to show out. I think he's tired of all the criticism, the hate, what Shaq getting in his ear and stuff like that. I think he's just going to show out and make a few threes,
Yeah, 3-point contest is probably my favorite. I love the dunk contest when you get two players going at it, but the 3-point contest is always one of my favorites to see who catches fire.
Yeah, I agree. And I like the dunk contest. I feel like it's better. It's been better before, like when there are more notable names. There really isn't that this year, but of the three competitors, Obi Toppin, Anthony Simons, and Cassius Stanley, who you got taking this?
We've already talked about the Knicks enough, right? So we already have the MVP. We got the Coach of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. Give me dunk contest winner Obi Toppin.
I was going to pick him, and honestly, I'm interested to see what Anthony Simons does because he rarely ever dunks, Like, it's something that you don't ever really see. I'm going to go with Cassius Stanley, though. I think the dunk contest, I feel like they favor more, guards because more times than not they have the higher vertical. So I think he'll have that edge over Obi Toppin. And I mean, we've seen some of his dunks prior to the NBA. He hasn't really dunked in an NBA game, but I don't know. Like I'm taking Cassius Stanley on this one.
I don't think he's even dunked in the NBA yet.
He hasn't. I saw a stat that he hasn't dunked in a game yet.
It was funny because I saw something of them showing all the participants, and you got Obi Toppin dunking in a Knicks jersey, and then you have Simons dunking in a Blazers jersey, and then you have like pre-draft gear of Cassius Stanley.
Yeah, it'll be like that one thing where, I know he's had some now, but like when Dennis Smith had that kind of viral dunk before he got traded or something with the Knicks, it's going to be like one of those, I bet. But yeah, we're gonna pick the All-Star game. I know they haven't announced them. They will by the time this comes out. But Team LeBron and Team Durant, we can almost expect, I think, who's gonna lean towards picking who. But before seeing all the draft go on, who do you think's gonna win?
It just seems like Team LeBron wins majority of the All-Star games, and especially since the drafting has started. So I'm going to go with Team LeBron, complete guess, 50-50 chance. Who knows who's going to get drafted and what happens from here on out, but I'll lean with Team LeBron.
Yeah, along with the fact that also Durant is not going to be playing, so he's got like an injury. I don't know how they're going to handle that, but Team LeBron, ever since they changed this format, is 3-0. I expect them to go 4-0 as well. I think they're going to win. And it'll probably still be a close game too, considering they're still gonna apply like those old rules from last year, and that should be fun to see again.
Yeah, certainly like the revamped All-Star game leads to some more competitiveness at the end of the game. So hopefully we get something of that nature again this year.
Exactly. But that's gonna close out the show. I hope you guys enjoyed. Any final thoughts?
No, nothing big, guys. So enjoy the All-Star break. Give yourselves some time off. Relax. Spend some time doing some other things you love. And we will be back covering the NBA for the second half of the season. It was certainly a fun first half and couldn't have done it without your guys' support. So appreciate that as always, and take care.
Yep. Stay tuned for more, and hope you guys enjoyed. We're out. Peace.
Peace.